This time of year, it's all about talent acquisition. And of course, Mike Norvell and his coaching staff doing their best for 2024 and 25, of course. Welcome in the Voice of College Football, Florida State Live here every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We got this guy, George from the Renegade Report. Check out his work. We will leave the link and talk more about what George has going on this week concerning Florida State football. We will talk talent acquisition, but suddenly, bam, we've been hit with we got to become lawyers, I guess, George, is the next step in all of this is to try to wade through all of this. But Pete Thamel and others reporting he's probably at the forefront of this. A ton of tweets concerning Florida State versus the ACC and the grant of rights.
Absolutely. And I'll go ahead and read the one that caught my attention earlier just because this the sheer just the joke of it. But it says Florida State has chosen to breach its contractual obligations. It has violated its contractual promise not to challenge the validity or enforceability of the grant of rights. So basically what they're saying is, oh, just you're not even allowed to challenge it. Like this is so this bodes very well for Florida State. And I think any future ACC teams looking to get out of this thing, they're really, really worried. They do not want this out in the open, but I think this attempt has been futile. And there's several different amendments in there, but basically what they're saying is Florida State in 2013 and 2016, when these things got hamstrung in there, when they offered these, these do yes or no, like you're either in or you're out type deal things, they're trying to say, well, you agree to not even broach our authority. You're just going to agree. You're never going to want to look inside this thing. We're going to keep it in this conference up here under lock and key, and that's it. Unfortunately for them, that's not how the world works. Contracts, rules, they're all made to be broken. That's the whole point of the court process. If it was that simple, if you could just do that in a contract, we would have no need for the courts or anything like that. So all I can tell for the ACC is to buckle up, Buttercup, because it's coming.
Yeah, so I got to think that it's unreasonable for anyone that's going to be signing a contract to have not read the terms of the contract or not to have access to look at the grant of rights and just to agree to a number of conditions, but not actually look at the grant of rights. So not understanding that part of it. The second part of it is, I guess, it should be, although legal things get quite complicated in terms of wording and interpretation, but should be fairly clear that that it would be stated in there. There was one thing that you mentioned just about challenging or breaking the grant of rights. We've been over that. Certainly, I'm sure you've posted a ton of content. We have discussed it here for months and months and months. On the main channel as well, brought in all sorts of different people to give their perspective on it, and it's definitely a point of argument. Otherwise, it wouldn't be much of a fight because you can certainly read that grant of rights and in some ways understand why it seems like it's unbreakable, but in other ways, Florida State obviously feels confident, and other schools feel confident. Looks like Clemson is waging its own war and getting ready that this can be broken.
Because I'd love to. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like you said, we got to become lawyers. We've had Danielle Kelly on our show. I've seen Doug Rohan from the Rohan at Law. I've seen him on some different shows. The Florida State fans that are lawyers are really getting some action on the podcast circuit, so that's pretty cool. But it's like seems pretty unprecedented. Like, why can you have that clause in? Like, it pretty much that in clause saying you can't even, you can't even challenge it. It's basically like, why would you need that unless there was something illegal or unenforceable in there? You know what I mean? It's like trying to have an NDA within a contract. Like you hear sign it, but you can't even look at it. It's really sketchy, and I don't see how any reasonable judge would uphold that. They're gonna have to if they want this thing to go away, and they're going to take it to court, this stuff is going to come out. They're going to have to prove it on the merits of the contract. They're not going to be able to just say, "Oh, well, they weren't even allowed to challenge it. They signed away their rights." Just too many moving pieces, too many different people in place, at the different schools that signed it. It's just a lot of stuff in there. Those lawyers are going to be able to figure a way to get past it. But it's just funny to see, kind of, them putting this out there, this narrative.
Yeah. So, folks, if you're not aware, forgive us on this one. This stuff just came out in the last 30 to 45 minutes. So I have not looked at it at all. I was preparing for the show. I was looking through transfer portal and recruiting classes and all of that business. Brought George on. And right about the time that I was bringing George on, as we were going live, I saw this come down and I'm just starting to look into it. The first thing that strikes me, is there, again, where at least I'm taking this from the P. Thamel reports on his Twitter, but quote, Florida State has chosen to breach its contractual obligations. Like you said, George, it has violated its contractual promise not to challenge the validity or enforceability of the grant of rights. Why would the ACC not have brought this up at the very beginning, at the very outset of this, when Florida State made any kind of statement, brought up any type of thought that they would challenge it, that the ACC would immediately come back with this and say, boom. Well, why is this happening months and months and months later?
Feels like a grasping at straws. That's why it's getting really like meme to death right now on X, and I'm sure the other social media things as well. Yeah, like what's changed? What brought this amendment along?
Yeah, I think when you boil everything down, I think we're in agreement here that Florida State is going to get out of the ACC. It's just a matter of how much fighting is going to have to take place. Are they going to be able to, between the ACC and Florida State and whomever else wants to leave, but focused on Florida State here, are they going to be able to come up with some type of reasonable negotiation or reasonable parting of the ways, or is this going to get even messier and bloodier and all of that? And of course, Florida State wants to do it as quickly as possible and save as much money as possible in the process.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Me and Jen have talked about it a ton on our show. Like you've said, we've talked, Spear Addicts has talked about it a ton. James at Den Media Group, we've all talked about it, but man, I've kind of predicted, we've leaned that it would be like the 120 million, the kind of original buyout, but without the extra 400 million over 13 years that it would take to get out, if there was going to be a settlement. But who knows? If maybe they decide to take this thing all the way. I also hold strong and true that there's going to be a settlement. I just can't for the life of me. I think ACC just does not want this stuff out there in the open, and I think this latest motion it's just further proof of that. You know what I mean? Them doing anything possible they can to keep it from coming out. But I think opening their checkbook and saying sayonara to FSU is the only way to safely do this. Or like you said, bloodshed. We get discovery, all that good stuff. I'm here for either way. But I think the most likely thing is settlement for sure.
I don't know who less wants this to come out, the ACC or ESPN, in terms of discovery. Now, in terms of these damages, so another P. Thamel quote here or tweet is, as part of this amended complaint, the ACC is seeking unspecified damages from Florida State. So without going through all of this, I'm guessing that they are claiming that by Florida State just challenging the grant of rights and by simply saying, hey, this is a thing, and they are making the ACC look bad, killing its reputation, killing its prominence in the sport, and therefore the ACC saying, by just challenging this, you have damaged our reputation and our value.
Yeah, and it's just circular logic they're using, because the whole reason we're in this situation is Florida State's a 13-0 conference champ, and they're not good enough to even get in. The ACC isn't out there fighting for Florida State. They're not fighting financially. Also in that document is all those things that they were supposed to do that never happened. So, yeah, it's just, it's just one of these things. They filed a suit a couple of days before, Florida State even held the Board of Trustees meeting. So it's like, well, how did you do that? Where'd you get the leaked information that knew that they were ever going to be a filing come out of that? So, yeah, like you said, it happened kind of spur of the moment. So we haven't really got to dig in there and see if there's anything, in there, because the way this legal jargon works, a lot of times there'll be one sentence that you find later, like, oh, well, this makes somebody exculpatory here. We haven't got into it but just on the face of it, like you said, it's like, oh, well, no, you're not even allowed to challenge it. Nope, just that breaks it. It's like, that's a real weak, like I mean, they're living in a dreamland if they think they're going to get in there and the judge is going to speak. Yep, look at here. Look, you signed away your right to even, look at the contract, challenge it, anything. You can't. You got to just go with it till 2036. I don't think that's going to fly.
So this is what hits me next. Going to the next Pete Thamel tweet. Everything we've talked about is like serious stuff, but would not necessarily get decided, or nobody would be damaged or hit with any money until they actually go to court or come through with a settlement. This deals with exactly what's immediate right now in terms of the management of the conference and making decisions. Key claim from the ACC in amended complaint, quote, this court issue a permanent injunction barring Florida State from participating in the management of the affairs of the conference while it has a direct and material conflict of interest, meaning voting and whatever else involved in managing the conference. And of course, we focus on football here. Football season's over. Not that it doesn't need to be managed in the off season, but you've got all these other sports that Florida State is a full member of the ACC and voting and participating in, and suddenly you're telling them immediately that we are not going to include you in the management of the conference?
It seems awful. What's the one I'm looking for? It seems awful, just like
cutthroat,
okay, dude,
spiteful.
Just whatever. Do what you're gonna do. You can swing your sword around. Try to make all these little things stick, but I don't think it's going to change the end result. I think, that's been their whole thing. They've been trying to get a hold of the public perception of this thing. Like the FSU is just doing something crazy. They're trying to single-handedly ruin college football. And they have, the people that are down with the conference, down with the front office people, your Wake Forest, your Dukes, your North Carolina schools, basically doing all these press releases talking about, oh, we're happy with the money, we're this, we're that, right off the heels of them a week before saying how, oh, we just can't compete, we can't keep all our players, they leave every week. So it's just like talking out of both sides of your mouth. I don't think they're going to be able to get ahead of it, but it's very interesting. I can't wait to see. I have a good feeling we're going to hear something from Florida State's representation here pretty quick, with all this dropping here, like we had talked about right here before the show. I'm really curious to what Jen has to say on this. I told her that she should come on. She said she may get Cam ready and jump on here and talk to us about it. But yeah, it's something.
Absolutely, that would be great if Jen could drop by and lay down some knowledge for us and her perspective. And again, all this stuff that we've touched upon thus far hits me as, okay, really heavy stuff, but stuff that's not going to affect anything until it's actually decided or won in court or settled, except for this management of the conference. That seems like, wow, we're going to hit you with this immediately.
Direct and material conflict of interest with the purposes and objectives of the conference. What are we doing besides like being undefeated and being this great thing, bringing your TV ratings? Like, I mean, like, I guess just the fact of the fact we're arguing to try to get out, or like, what has Florida State done that is in direct and material conflict of the interests and the purposes and objectives of the? I'd really, really like to know. Can they do another release and let us know what the purposes and objectives of the ACC conference are? Because it's extremely confusing for us out here. It sure seems like it's to just get a free ride for these smaller schools and let them bring in $40-50 million a year, so they can like funnel the money to their basketball program. I don't know. Is that what's going on? Because Wake Forest damn sure ain't spending it on football as much as they want to act like they're the greatest growing this and that. I mean, it's nothing crazy. 1 year of Big Ten money, you could build that stadium twice that they've got over there. So it's like, far be it for me to be the judge, but it's like, goodness gracious. Oh, we're poor. Oh, well, we make plenty of money, plenty coming from the ACC. I really hope Clemson. There's kind of been whispers out here. I don't want nobody clip this and say George said Clemson's about to come out at such and such date. No, just heard rumors. There's been some different people talking about it. That Clemson is, day by day becoming more anxious and wanting to enter this thing, but we don't know. Do they have a place to go or not? That's the question. They're not on track for the AAU and things like that, like Florida State is. So I think it would have to be the SEC. I don't know. That's a whole other can of beans to go down. But yeah, it would be nice if there was somebody in this with Florida State. But for right now, it's just going to go along with the vibe of what we've got going on. It's kind of the revenge. You've seen all the Darth Vader memes, FSU against the world like this year, whatever. What are they going to? They're going to try and lock us out of conference play. We'll see. We'll see what. I don't know what they mean by the management of the conference. How they're going to lock us out of that. Like what say did we have? Like before. Like I don't know how materially we were involved in managing the ACC before this thing came out. So
my guess there, and again, that's a fairly vague term, management of the conference, because the conference has to be managed to some degree every day of the year. But if you're talking about really excessive voting and very important decisions, that may happen a couple times a year. So this may not come up anytime soon, but it's going to hit fairly soon at some point where there are decisions to be made where they get everyone together and they have their, I think it's periodic meetings, maybe monthly meetings where they're meeting as a conference and discussing issues and voting. And if they just completely say, Florida State, we are shutting you out of this, wow, what is that going to look like?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. So they could shoehorn this meeting up. Maybe they've got plans for that. Maybe they want to get the rest of the people, turn them all against FSU. Maybe they could get some vote through that just absolutely screws us, or could, hey, do y'all want to run a schedule, see what it looks like without FSU? But if they want to do that, if they want to give up on their final year of having this cash cow in there with them, whatever. Well, I'm sure that something will be figured out. And if they tried to make it to where FSU's out in the cold and they've only got 4 out of conference games to play, I think at that point in time, some bigger government offices would get involved and put a stop to that. So seems like a lot of hot air to me. But like I said, it's it's something to talk about. It's like just heads running with all this stuff. I can't wait to see what the retort is from the Florida State law group. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's just a big threat. And the reason I say that is, on one hand, you're arguing that you want to keep this team in the conference. You think that they are bound to stay in the conference, but at the same time, you're going to take away their voting rights and their management rights and contribution to manage the conference. Well, that doesn't make any sense. So again, that sounds like a big threat. And that's the one that hits me kind of strange, in that's kind of different than everything else, because that could come up here soon. Florida State Seminoles Live right here, the voice of college football. Appreciate y'all being here. We always appreciate George showing up. Renegade Report is an easy click away, folks. It's right here on YouTube, the Renegade Report. Check out what George has going on there. When's your next live show? So
today's Wednesday. We've got a show Friday. Right off the top of my head, I don't think we have anything special planned. That one may be just me and Jen. I know we're talking about maybe getting Max Chadwick on again, but we have a ton of stuff in the bank. Especially last week. Last week I think we did a show like 5 or 6 days out of the week. It was nuts. We had Carlos Williams on. We had Kenny Shaw the week before that. We had DJ U's father, Big Dave.
Nice.
We had Bryant McFadden on. And I hope I'm not leaving anybody out. But yeah, we just had a ton of great people. Last night we had Rob DeLoach and CJ Wilson on. So if you're watching, go check that out. All that information, recruiting information and stuff is still current. It's been a lot of fun, man. We've really been growing, trying to get to 2,000 subs here pretty quick. So that's the next milestone.
We, of course, will answer your comments, questions there in the chat. Please consider the super chat contribution. You can also hit us up at Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. I'm right there, Mark Rogers TV. But if you do and you're wanting to contribute to the Florida State show, please let me know that it's for the FSU show. Again, Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. And also, don't bring this up very often, but this is an easy way to contribute that does not cost you a penny, folks. Go to the Amazon link. It's in the description section of the video. I've got it right there in caps, Amazon. You grab that link. I've tested this out with 1 million people. They all say, you get the same shopping experience. So you're not going to have to sign up for anything, jump through hoops, do anything. You just use Amazon and it's going to know who you are. So if you're already signed into Amazon and you already have an account, even if you use our link, you're going to see your name in the corner and it's the same exact shopping experience. So it doesn't change the ease of shopping on Amazon, and it doesn't cost you a penny, but Amazon helps us here at the Voice of College Football by taking a portion of those purchases. So again, Amazon link in the description section. All right, George, unless we see some comments and questions or you have anything to add, I'm sure we'll jump back to this at some point in the show, but we can get on with some football.
Absolutely, man. Some recruiting is going absolute on fire. Mike Norvell and the staff has just been burning it down the past couple weeks.
Where do you want to start? I jotted down TREVER Jackson, the 2024 quarterback. We could start there possibly.
Absolutely. TREVER Jackson, big time quarterback commit for the Noles. A guy you get to come in as a preferred walk-on. You've got other schools in the state. You know, you've got a program coming up from Miami after this. Those guys couldn't bring in a single blue chip quarterback. You know, here we have a guy, Luke Cromenhawk, who in my eyes is a 5-star. They kind of he rose real high, became a 5-star. They backed it off. He's a high 4-star. But you're able to get in another 4-star, another Elite 11 competitor. This is not, you know, some project guy. He's a legit blue chip quarterback. He won the Rail Shot Challenge at the Elite 11 competition. Really had his coming up out party there. He had another, I think, elite kind of quarterback transfer in to the school he was at, so he kind of split duties. And they had a pretty interesting system, not your traditional system. I think he ran for like 10 TDs his senior year, but a good pickup, man. Somebody that's going to be able to run scout team, I imagine, this year. And compete, help keep Luke pushing forward. And who knows, they could possibly have different, you know, packages for him, different stuff. Like I said, different little packages in place for him. If he's one of those guys that's ready to climb, or he could be a guy who just helps you and is a solid practice player for a couple of years before he transfers out to get an opportunity somewhere else. Either way, I trust the staff, and you love it. You love to see that quarterback room go from where it was just a few weeks ago, where it was pretty much Jordan Travis or bust. He gets injured and goes out, and that's it. You got a true freshman who's only been able to practice 3 weeks out of the year, and another guy who got a concussion, and Tate Rodemaker, who's already transferred out of the program. But when you look forward, bringing in TREVER Jackson, now you look forward, you have DJ Uiagalelei behind him. You have Brock Glenn. Then you have a Luke Cromenhawk, again, a blue chip guy, and of course another blue chip guy to come in alongside him. It's great things. But also, you know, we could go right along to the 2025 class. Florida State lands a blue chip, I believe number 47 overall, if I'm not mistaken. JAVION HILSON, defensive end, just an absolute freak of nature. I want to say he's 6'3.5", like 225 pounds. Just that kind of dude. Exactly that. 6'3.5", 225 pounds, out of Cocoa, Florida, Cocoa High School, a place that has paid dividends for us. And, you know, you reach back in that pot and get another big time guy. He's a composite like 9.753, which if you follow recruiting rankings, he's right there at a 5-star. You know, maybe they've got 32 5-stars out at this point, and he's number 47. So he could very easily end up being a 5-star. You've got another guy in this class, Zion Grady, who just decommitted from Alabama, a guy to look out for. I know he's going to be on campus at Florida State. here pretty quick. I think Auburn and Georgia will be a couple people to compete for, but he's been on campus, again at Florida State several times, and he's another big time. I believe he is a 5-star, or again, he's one of those guys that's right outside of it, if not in the 247 composite. So big things happening in that 2025 class. Also the 2024 class. You got a guy like Amari Williams, an absolute freak. He was originally in this 2025 class that is just absolutely loaded. He got some advice to reclassify. So now he's a 2024 kid. And with, the things happening at Bama, it's, a lot of signs looking really good. There's a lot of whispers around Florida State. So look to see possibly have a chance to get him between now and that February signing day coming down the road. That would be really nice. But yeah, high school is just moving at a steady clip. I've talked a lot about this 2025 class being that one where Mike Norvell really steps into the big leagues and you have that true top 5 class. I think that's what we're going to end up getting. And it's no surprise that they're getting out of the gates strong. But yeah, Amari Williams, man, he's a freak. He's just, don't let his ranking fool you. He's not a 5-star, he's not the super high recruit in this class, but that's simply due to a reclassification. So the ceiling is through the roof. He's just, dropped down and playing with a little bit of older competition there for graduating so soon, but definitely a high roof on this guy. And you definitely want to get him in there if any way possible. And it's definitely looking good. Another guy in that, I'm sorry, I'm bouncing back, but back to the 2025 class, all this Alabama stuff that I'm sure we'll get into a few minutes when we get into the transfer portal. Jamie French, a guy from Mandarin High School. Of course, James Coleman, Den Media Group, our good friend, coaches at Mandarin High School. I believe coaches running backs over there. So, would love to get this guy in. And again, with Saban leaving, he has decommitted. So it's just getting him in, continuing that relationship. But you absolutely love Florida State's chances with him. Kind of like Amari Williams with the 2024 class. One of those guys you can keep your eyes open on a commit at any given time. So you love to see it there.
Just to get everyone lined up on some of these numbers from high school production for these guys. So we got Amari Williams, George ran it down in regards to his measurables, the 247 ranking, all of that. He caught 16 balls this past high school football season, 424 yards, 26.5 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns. So when I see the category athlete, obviously almost all of those guys are DBs / wide receivers. You've seen a few more recently have been outside linebacker, tight ends, but almost always they're defensive backs, wide receivers. Where is he leaning? Do we know which side of the ball?
This is a defensive end we're talking about here. So
okay.
Yes, sir. He plays some tight end as well, but yeah, he's a freak of nature. Like I said, 6'3.5", 225. But you play both ways in high school, but no, he's they want him to come in and rush the passer at Florida State, and he is going to be a freak at it. He just, like I said, he reclassified. So especially being a junior, I'm sure he played a little bit more tight end. Probably if he wouldn't have reclassified, he probably would have specialized and really honed in on the D end stuff. So that's probably why his stats are that. But no, I'm sure he's probably had some explosive growth here in the past 18 months and blossomed. But yeah, he's going to be a freak off the edge. May take him a year. He'll probably be a red shirt guy, but all the tools are there for sure.
So folks on that side of the ball, this past high school season, 10 games played for Amari Williams, 8 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, had 34 total tackles. And as we move on to JAVION HILSON, who again flipped from Bama, 27 tackles for loss this last season, 14 sacks, 94 tackles, huge production for him. And then TREVER Jackson this past season. And again, we read off the stats. They're interesting to me, but at the same time, let's understand stats become more and more meaningful the higher you go in levels. High school, you assume in Florida, they're going to have top competition to play against. You go to other parts of the country and the stats could be skewed in all sorts of ways, but just to run down it here, TREVER Jackson, 55% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks this last year, through 16 touchdowns and 7 picks at 59%, the season before. So he's a 30-12 TD to pick ratio during his career in high school thus far.
Absolutely. Really excited to get him in. He'll be a real, real great addition to that class. You lose, excuse me, you lose a guy like Gino English this past year, your guy who was a walk-on for a couple of years, and he's a real leader in the locker room for those walk-on guys and just a glue guy. You imagine Trevor can come in and do that as well, and they'll fight for a scholarship points at some point. So can't wait to see what he can come in and do.
Folks, I brag about George all the time. Like especially a night like tonight, he's holding it down for us. Appreciate George showing up. And of course, each game after Florida State gets done off the field, you got post game from George, and probably George, a better addition in recent weeks, recent games has been Jen here. So I get the pleasure of talking to Jen for the first time. Jen, we appreciate you stopping by.
Hi, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Jen, everybody should be aware that's watching, but just in case they're not, before we get rolling on all this mess and legalities and anything else you want to talk about with FSU, with what's going on with recruiting, where can people find you? What do you have going?
Well, you can find me at Twitter or X, Jen Knoll 2013 or Jen Santee 1890. That is usually where I can be found. Also, any Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday on the Renegade Report on YouTube.
Very nice. See, I don't have a banner ready. I'm trying to cook this up here real quick, but we'll get that up there so everybody can find Jen easily.
Yeah, she won't be a stranger, and as long as we keep forward, we go to the Voice of College Football thing for the post game. She'll be right there with me. I may have to. Who knows? If I have something come up, you may get the first ever Jen solo cast on one of those. That'd be fun.
That would be phenomenal. Yeah. We take it. I don't know if George would be allowed back, but if you want to take that risk,
that would probably be the end of it right there. Huh?
Yeah, that could be it for you. All right, Jen, there's craziness going on with the ACC, and we just got slapped with about a ton of information in the last 45 minutes to an hour. I can guess how this hits you, but let us know your take.
I find it funny. I'm laughing at it. I kind of feel like the ACC just showed their hand, to be honest. I feel like this is good news for Florida State. I think a settlement is incoming, and I just don't see it lasting any longer, really. I know a lot of people are saying a year to 2 years. I honestly think this thing is going to be settled, and we'll see a number by like July 1st. That's what I think. Now, I could be wrong, but for me, the fact that they now want to say, oh, they can't have a vote because they want to challenge this, they want to do this. It honestly tells me that they're kind of worried about this case. I think, yeah, to me, it's hilarious. It's absolutely delusional to do that. And I honestly thought their first lawsuit was wild to me because they were trying to say or sue Florida State for something they had to legally do because of the state of Florida, which is bizarre. I mean, I think legally when Florida State is supposed to do that publicly, that's what they have to do with Florida laws. They have to do that publicly. They are a state school. So for me, yeah, good. Bring it on. I'm glad the ACC is upset. I'm happy. That kind of just showed me, yep, we're on the right track. Usually when you get these types of things, you're hovering over that target pretty well. That's what I say.
No, I think you're definitely on it, because when all this started hitting the media and the Board of Trustees meeting that really got it rolling and really brought it to the forefront, and we knew that, okay, they're out in front of this, and there was all sorts of speculation over, okay, well, if the ACC is going to hold tight to this, they're going to try to hold to this grant of rights. This could drag on for years and years and years and years as Florida State tries to fight this. But nobody wants to do business. It's one thing when you do business and you've got a bad situation and, you got a private business, nobody knows about it. But all this is out there for everyone to see. And if there's a worse look for a conference, it's that arguably your best sports brand, best football brand, doesn't want to be there, is fighting with you, is exposing your ineptitude, your mismanagement of the brand and the negotiating rights over the last decade, and you're just going to kind of let that go and just let it. That would be one thing. The second thing that I hit George with that really stuck out to me that was a bit different than the rest of it was this whole, we're going to suspend your ability to manage the conference. Like, we're taking your vote away and you're not going to like be in on meetings and help manage the conference. Seriously? Yep. Now that's, to me, points to what you're talking about, Jen, about this coming to a head really soon, because I can't imagine Florida State's just going to be okay with,
what's up, Jen? Are they going to vote us off the island, or what's going on here?
I mean, it seems like they're about to, right? And I think this also proves some of Florida State's points in their lawsuit. If you look at what they said about Notre Dame getting a vote. So Notre Dame gets a vote in the conference. Perfect. They really don't do anything other than play in, Olympic sports or whatever it is that they do. But they get to vote on the conference. They get a vote. This is more bad mismanagement by the ACC. And I think I don't know what their goal is with this type of language, except for maybe they think it's going to strong arm Florida State a little bit more. I do think Florida State really does want that discovery. I think they do. I think they're being talked off a little bit of a ledge here. I think some of the attorneys around them are saying, hey, I get it. We all want to see it. It'll be fun, right? It'll be great for, post-game shows or, ESPN or whoever to talk about. That's going to be great, and fans would love it. But you kind of need to go to the table and sit down and negotiate here. So I think the ACC doing this is trying to strong arm Florida State to get to those negotiations, because I don't know right now that they've been all that interested in it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I didn't think about that, but you're absolutely right. It's like, you're going to take our vote away. Meanwhile, you're letting Notre Dame vote against the interest, because they have no interest. They're not even in the football conference. Exactly. And they're getting a vote against Florida State's interest every time we do one of these things. So that was a very, very good point.
I think it's also in that if you look at their lawsuit, it was that Notre Dame got the vote for Cal, Stanford, and SMU to get invited. And now they want to take Florida State's away when they just, were the most watched team and all these things in the conference. And it's like nobody, and even in their down years, we're still the most watched team in the conference. So it's really a strong arm tactic. I don't think it's anything that is alarming more than funny. I think the ACC is grasping at straws a little bit here. And I think what you're going to see my prediction is going to be a little bit over 1 million, maybe 120 to get out. And now, could they negotiate that down? Yeah, I could see it. There are some people who are thinking 50 to 75 who are way smarter than I am. But I also think Florida State wants this done. They want that baggage out, and they want to be able to make themselves available first. That's their goal.
And just to clarify for everyone, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong on this, the reason we see these amounts at 650, 700 million is it's that 120 starting figure, and then it's the addition of all those home football games and how much TV money that brings in for the life of the contract. So that's obviously going down each season, but it's still a ridiculous number. So the 120 is just that starting point for breaking the contract.
And I think where Florida State is on pretty good ground here is the fact that ESPN has that opt-out in 2027. So I think they would be able to get out of that and not have to – I think they're going to be able to negotiate it with that because of that opt-out. And if anybody thinks that ESPN is going to pick up all these things if Florida State, Clemson leave, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't.
Feels ESPN, like Clemson would be the backbreaker.
Yeah, if with that contract, ESPN can walk away at any time. So Florida State's going to argue that the ACC went into that contract pretty much in bad faith, allowing that amendment in there. And that's where I feel like the negotiation is going to take place. That's why I was saying the 120 for the exit fee is where I could see it going, and them not even getting into that grant of rights, arguing it down or trying to enforce it with them. Because should that go to court and Florida State is actually allowed to negotiate out of that grant of rights legally, like in a court of law, that's when you're going to see other teams do the same thing. I think the ACC is going to try and put a top on this bowling pot and see if they can get away with it. That's what I think.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, meanwhile, Mike Norvell and his staff, Jen, of course, have to say, you guys deal with that. Mike Alford, you've got it down. And really the impressive thing, and I've stated this to George, we've had this conversation with everyone else, is that Alford stepped on campus. And even before he got the job, that he already knew the situation Florida State was in, is like, okay, Florida State's this level brand. They're making this amount of money. This is what's going on with the SEC and the Big Ten, and it's even going to grow. And he was already starting to form the, day one on the job, calling consultants, lawyers, putting together a team to work on this. So, wow, kudos to him for getting way out in front of this and saying, this is what this job is going to be. The most important thing I can do to save this program, the football program, and by extension, really the entire athletic department, is to get in front of this. And because we can't wait till 2036.
No,
it's a breath of fresh air. And the thing that the uninitiated, if you don't know, before he was the AD, the first thing he did, and the necessary thing, the reason it all worked, the reason it didn't work with Jimbo and through the Biden transition, he got the boosters together first. He was the president of the Boosters Association. And he went straight from, president of the Boosters Association to getting that job. People were upset. It bounced around. They had temporary this, but they got it in, and he has it from the ground in every situation fixed. And like you said, coming from Big Ten background and stuff like that, he's put his master plan in place, and it's amazing. But we needed a whole nother hour, man. We could keep sitting here talking, but we're going to have to get into the whole Roll Tribe Bama transfer thing, of course, before we get out of here. I've seen a bunch of comments about it, but yeah, the hits keep coming. The latest one being Sean Murphy, a linebacker, a position we talk about a lot. He's not he doesn't have a ton of experience, but you get in a guy, a big time blue chip guy I think he's going to be a redshirt sophomore, 2 years of development at Alabama, and they didn't seem too happy about losing him. But yeah, ton of stuff with the transfer portal. Mike Norvell has just been absolutely killing it. I think we're up to 14 or 15, Jen, and more to come.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm excited. I'm excited about it, especially the linebacker. He doesn't have a lot of experience, but this is a kid that Florida State was actually in on. George, correct me if I'm wrong, when he came out of high school, correct? So this is is this another instance of them coming in second and then?
I'm not sure if this one's so much. Like I said, he's like a third or fourth year guy. I just don't want to say it because I don't have a memory, but a lot of these guys for sure. The other guy, Richie Leonard, the offensive lineman from Florida, definitely is. He definitely is a guy that Alex Atkins was really wanting. But even from Alabama, Earl Little Jr., another one. We really wanted out of high school. Jalen Brown, the LSU wide receiver, a guy. It was like between him or Hakeem Williams. Year later, we have both of them. So it really have got a ton of guys like that. And you're probably right. Like I said, on him specifically, I don't remember, but I'm pumped to have him. I think you end up also getting that linebacker with experience later on, whether it be after spring or not. But it's been pretty funny seeing all the same Bama people who were saying, oh, he can't recruit and Mike Norvell can't do this and Florida State doesn't do that. All of a sudden the Bama head coaching job comes up, and that's all the reasons they'd love to have him. And that's the reason all these dudes who played for Saban are lining up to play for Florida State. And as many of them that want to come over, as many as they want to sign, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I've got to find that ESPN clip. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I got to find the ESPN clip on Friday morning. It was before Michael Alford sent out his X or whatever you call it that Mike was going to stay.
Yeah, the
And
Pope, the
ESPN
smoke
is,
signal.
yeah, and ESPN's talking about what a great leader and culture changer Mike Norvell is, when that's not what they were saying a week ago. You know, it was absolutely Heather Dinich, Paul Feinbaum. Oh, he would be perfect. Perfect, just a great leader, great recruiter, all these things. A week ago, that was not the case. So
Yeah,
it's just,
hilarious.
it's crazy to me. I don't know. I'm sitting here looking at my TV, wanting to throw things at it, but I just bought it, so I wasn't going to do it. But I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm sitting, it was almost as bad as Greg McElroy during that Washington, Texas game. Oh, look, this star player gets hurt and Washington just finds ways to win. Can you imagine a team being able to do this? No, Greg, we can't. We can't imagine a team being able to do that after their star player gets hurt. We really can't. Thank you for joining.
Well, when
Fun stuff.
George made the comment about Mike Norvell taking some shots for recruiting and the recruiting rankings versus Florida versus Miami, I got to say, for any Florida State fans to check out the video, which you've got no reason to check it out now, but when Norvell was in the talk with Lanning and everyone else for the Bama job, I did my pros and cons for every coach. I took like the 5 or 6 top candidates and I went down the list. And I got to say, when I went to Norvell, I had all pros. I think Mike Norvell's doing an outstanding job. But I thought of, okay, I will mention that if you strictly just look at recruiting rankings,
Yep.
that maybe Florida and Miami have, I wouldn't say that have done better, but it's not been what's been represented on the field, where Florida State has obviously clearly exceeded the other two in the last 2 seasons. So that was my only, that's all I could come up with.
It's fair.
Yeah,
Look, it's fair.
yeah.
It's apples to oranges. You know, Florida State, he's on a trajectory. He's improving. So it's like, yeah, it wasn't that good, but we finished like 10th this year, 11th by on 3. But like you said, like we just talked about, Amari Williams, there's other guys. This thing, we could end up finishing 6th or 7th. So it's heading in the right direction. And they were forced to go with the portal. That was the thing they were forced to do the first couple of years. And now look, they have an absolute weapon where people are, okay, this isn't, mercenary, this or that. We're literally building teams and getting guys like Jen had mentioned. We're getting guys that we want out of high school just last year, the year before, the top 100 players in the nation. And you're getting them over. It's like, so it's really amazing what he has done as an evaluator and picking and choosing the guys he brings in, be it out of high school or the transfer portal. He's proven himself to be elite. And the high school thing is just going to come. Even now with Saban retiring, you're taking another hand out of Florida. It's going to get freaky. So sorry to interrupt you. I know you got something, Jen, too.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, well, I mean, if you think about it, look at the kid, the 2025 kid that flipped from Alabama. Florida State was his number 2 as well. So there it goes. And in his interview, he said, even after I committed to Alabama, Florida State still told me how great I was. The coaches still treated me exactly the same, invited me down, talked to me, all these things. And they continue to do that. And I think that they kept relationships open. Now, I do feel like if a certain defensive back has to sit this year behind another DB that might be transferring from Alabama to Georgia, I don't think that line of communication will be open anymore. I'm just going to be honest about that. But I think that in certain cases, they do keep those relationships open. I've kind of heard that even, I know it was Marcus Woodson and he's no longer there, but I think even after, and I have heard this, that after Travis Hunter decommitted, Marcus Woodson was still in contact with him. Mike Norvell was still in contact with him just to check in and see how he was. I don't think that relationship was as tarnished as some people like to think it was. Whether or not the fans agree with that choice, I think that they really do care about these kids, and I think the kids understand that. And I think that's the appeal there, especially when you're talking about the portal. When you have kids that need to transfer for whatever reason, their coach leaves or they're not happy, where do they think to go? They think of the coaching staff that still treated them like a recruit that they really wanted, even after they committed, even after they spurned them, just still continue to care about them. And I think that's actually a good thing. And I also think that's why Mike Norvell was on Alabama's list. You look at the portal, the way he does the portal, the way he recruits the portal. I think that's why he was appealing to Alabama, because, you know, Saban, he did use it. You know, he did use it with Gibbs and some other players. He got some good players in there. But, you know, that's everybody thought that Dabo Swinney was chalk to the Alabama job should Nick ever retire, right? Until the transfer portal came along, right? I mean, I think that's, and look, I think these young coaches that are really good in the portal, that are finding their own in high school recruiting, and that's where I would go with that. I think that's the new normal in college football. And I don't know what else to tell anybody. I know Bama fans are really hurting right now. Welcome to the real world of being real college football fans. I know this hits you in the face a little bit. It really does. It sucks. And I feel bad for you, except for I don't. So I think that's just the new normal.
All right, folks, appreciate you being here. We do this every Wednesday, 6 Eastern. And Jen, you may want to close your eyes and not see the banner there. Our next show, Miami Hurricanes Live at 7 Eastern. So we'll be there in about 5 minutes. So if you want to come, discuss, debate, troll, we don't care, whatever, get on over there on the Miami channel here in just a few minutes. All right, guys, appreciate you being here. You got to check out George and Jen on the Renegade Report. That's a must. It's such an easy find. We usually drop the link. I didn't get a chance tonight, but the Renegade Report, and you should already be following George and Jen and make that a regular habit for sure. Jen, thanks for jumping out with us tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here, and I apologize. It took me a minute to get ready. So
no worries, no worries. Everyone, yeah. Miami Live right now. Otherwise, next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Join George tomorrow night at what time?
Friday. Usually Fridays around 7 Eastern.
Friday, about 7 Eastern, Renegade Report. So get on over there.
Absolutely appreciate you. Go Noles, baby.
thank